The genius of Western civilization is that it elevates the individual above the collective. It recognizes the dignity and autonomy of every person. This is really very unusual. We're a tribal species. We evolved in kin groups. This is a new and exceptional development. And allied to that, it elevates the rules above the rulers, right? You have laws that are common, equal, certain, predictable, that apply to everyone. The people in charge don't get to make up the rules as they go along, and everyone is equal. So what's the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge is the rise in aggressive identity politics that challenges those two precepts, which I think are the basis of Western civilization, by categorizing us and by elevating status or physiognomy or accident of birth over the autonomy of the individual. The way of thinking that says the most important thing about you is that you're female or white or whatever it is. And I just think that is incompatible with a free society. It's very hard to improve on Thomas Sowell, who said you can't run an open society on the basis that two babies born on the same day arrive in this world with a set of pre-existing grievances. The role historically of education in general and universities in particular was to be temples of the Enlightenment, to teach us things that don't come naturally. For example, the idea that someone we don't like might still have something useful to tell us. The idea that truth can be obtained through experimentation and debate and logic rather than just taken on trust from other people. This, I think, is what's made our modern societies comfortable and prosperous and free. I see our universities teaching the opposite. I see them elevating collectivism and group identity. And we may, before the end of our lives, look back on the liberal enlightened moment, the last 200 or 300 years, as a kind of interglacial between two dark ages. Or maybe it was like maybe another way of putting it is that it was like a stasis, a standoff between the old religious-based kind of authority and the new identitarian one. And that what we thought was a liberal moment when there was free speech and free inquiry was actually just that neither of those sides had the commanding heights, and now the seesaw is tipping. But either way, unless we fight for it, by heaven, we're going to miss it when it's gone. I'm still optimistic about the capacity for inventiveness and enterprise of a free people. It's very easy to focus on the things we don't like, to grumble about what's going wrong. I find myself doing it sometimes, and you can come across as curmudgeonly. But if I think of the changes in my life, I was born in 1971. In 1971, it took the average worker in the UK 2 months to be able to afford a TV set. Now it's 3 days. In 1971, a stationary car emitted more pollution than a car today moving at full speed. In 1971, fewer than half of girls worldwide completed primary education. Now, outside Afghanistan, it's effectively 100%, right? So the world does get better if we open our eyes to it.
And do you think that Europe is on a course for success or for failure at the moment?
So European nations have all the capacity for growth and enterprise and adventurism that elevated Europe and made it the dominant civilization of the last half millennium, as long as they retain the variety and the pluralism and the diversity which made those things possible in the first place. The most un-European thing is to jam these countries together, to centralize, to force common policies on them. Not only does that retard innovation, not only does it create the situation where all the tech giants are overseas and we can't build them in Europe, but it's a betrayal of the European patrimony, which is precisely based on a diversity of competing nation states which were able to trial and pilot new schemes and to copy what works best in their neighbours.